time is 7:03 and the meeting has been posted. We'll continue with the roll call. Carrie, could you do the roll?
Sure. Mayor Kim Smith,
Here.
Tom Smith,
Present.
Dan Stevens,
Present.
Stephen Knott, Jim
Probably him.
Olson,
Here.
Diane Wolf.
Here.
All right, we'll continue on with the Pledge of Allegiance. I have a flag. I don't know if you guys do, but I'll begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 3, the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. I forgot to have that up. I get it. Not there. Sorry, I'm still learning how to do. Hopefully I don't lose you all in the meantime. Here it is. I have it now. Okay, so the City Council and its subcommittees meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, insults, obscene remarks, threats of violence, or for the use of the council or committee as a forum for politics. Sufficient warnings may be given by the Sergeant at Arms at any time during the remarks in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum heretofore set forth. Such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Now, I'll see if I can resume the meeting. Oh, I see Dan. Okay, hopefully you can see me. Item 4, public input. Is there any public who would like to address the committee?
This is Tim Traylor. I'm one of the chaplains that serve the Onalaska police officers. I was hoping I could just offer an invocation real quick.
Sure.
All right. If you'd bow or join me in prayer if you're so inclined. Lord God Almighty, you are great, merciful, kind, and loving, and you are the source of wisdom and understanding, and you are the very present help in times of need. And Lord, I ask that as our city's leaders join together again tonight, I ask for your assistance for them as they lead our community during these unprecedented and very odd times. Lord, give them guidance and wisdom as they serve, as they make decisions, grant them peace and help them to work together in unity. I ask your blessing be upon their lives and their families and their work. Thank you for equipping them with strength and passion to serve our city. Please bless all of those who work to make this community such a wonderful place. I also ask that you would bless and protect those who protect us, all who work and serve in law enforcement and our emergency services. And I ask you as well for your continued blessing on our city and its citizens. And I ask, Lord, that you would continue to help us as we progress through this pandemic, that you would help us to remain at peace, to remain calm, and to continue to trust in you. These things I ask in your matchless and holy name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee?
This is Stephen Knott. I want you to let you know I just now got in. I've been trying for about 10 minutes to get in.
Okay,
Oh.
well, we're glad to have you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee? One last chance. I know it's sometimes hard. Amanda, do you see anyone that you think might be trying, or you think should be good? You have yourself muted, so I can't hear you. Okay, we'll go on then to item 5, report from the mayor. I have a few things on the agenda tonight. The first one is just a community update on the COVID-19. We've been working with city staff, Eric and team got a survey out this week to employees trying to formulate some kind of a plan moving forward to try to re-enter whatever the new normal is. I don't think we've really made a lot of progress on it, but we are working on it. We've also been in discussion with the county health department about hopefully I know I'm advocating for additional testing in our county. I feel like the testing that we've been having from the medical centers is not at a high enough level for us to really evaluate the presence of the virus in our community. So we're hoping for some more testing, but in the meantime, just trying to figure out a timeline so that we can get everyone back to work and businesses open and people going about their day-to-day business. Eric, did you want to add anything on that?
Sure, yeah. The department heads and I have a meeting during our huddle, as stated, to find ways to engage the employees as to the needs of both on a personal level as well as professional level, what they would need to be comfortable to re-engage the public within our facilities. The answers are varied in between. I don't think there's a direct consensus on the employees themselves. So I wouldn't say that we're not making progress. It's that we're being sensitive to the needs of our employees so they may be able to provide the high level service of the public demand when we do re-engage the public in our facilities.
I meant we weren't making progress in terms of we don't have an answer, not that
Right.
we're not trying, but we're not gaining information. Sorry.
Understood, no problem.
All right. Item B, mayoral proclamation for emergency order number 3. Back on April 20th, I issued the emergency order number 3. And that was the order that we felt was necessary in order to move necessary meetings to an online format so that we could try to get back to business a little bit. And also reiterated that the city buildings were closed. The reason why I wanted to make that clear is because I was getting a lot of calls, and I think some of the city staff were too. People just needed, at that time on April 20th, they needed a little more clear guidance on what was going on. And so I attempted to clarify that with emergency order number 3. So I hope at this time, as is the process, that the council will ratify emergency order number 3.
I move that we approve mayoral proclamation for emergency order number 3.
Diane Wolf seconds.
We have a motion on the floor by Dan Stevens, seconded by Alderperson Diane Wolf to approve emergency order number 3. Is there any discussion on this item? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. My computer kind of blacked out. I'm hoping did everyone vote yes? My internet connection is unstable. I'm going to assume everyone voted yes. It was unanimous and the motion carries. Moving on to item C, the mayoral proclamation for emergency order number 4. Emergency order number 4 was put out on May 7th. And that addressed a couple things that we were dealing with at City Hall. The first of all, it suspended the issuance of solicitor direct seller permits until further notice. We did not want to issue any direct seller permits. We didn't want anybody going door to door selling things right now at this time. Hopefully pretty soon we can change that, but at this time we won't be issuing those. And then also when it comes to special events, people were trying to develop their plans for the summer for events. And so after discussion with staff, we felt it was important to update the rules surrounding special event permits so that we could short circuit it if we are able to grant one. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments about that, but also I would appreciate the council's support for emergency order number 4. Does anyone have a discussion topic?
Yeah, I have, this is Steve Knott. I have a question on it. So
Sure.
When I see the direct seller, and maybe I'm wrong, but I did some research on it, I understand that that's more than just people going door to door. That could be like food trucks, things like that. Is that incorrect?
Let's refer to Carrie Burmaster for that. She would be our resident.
The food trucks do not hold a direct seller's permit. Those are actually licensed by the county. They hold a county license because they have food. And then if they would be working within the city here under the parking spots that we would have open, they would be working with the Park and Rec department with making reservations to use the spot. So they would not need to have a direct seller's permit to be able to do that.
Are there other categories of businesses other than door-to-door sales or door-to-door solicitation that would require a direct seller permit?
The only other item that would require a direct seller permit would be if somebody would set up, say, a tent that is not a permanent vendor in our city. The one that comes to mind right now is like a fireworks permit, you know, a tent to sell fireworks for the 4th of July. The person that's within the tent doing the selling would need to have a direct seller's permit.
This is Dan.
So
Stevens.
just to,
Alder Stevens?
If, just building off of Alder Knott, for example, let's say if a Schwann's truck may go in the neighborhood and selling their frozen food to people that maybe don't want to go to the grocery store, would that be regulated under this proclamation?
That is not regulated under this also because under the direct seller permit, we do not issue licenses for food. Those are handled by the county. So direct seller in the city of Unalaska excludes food items.
Okay, thank you.
okay, so the concern I have on this is I don't want the the city to start determining who winners and losers are economically. So yeah, I just want to be very, very certain that other than door-to-door sales, this doesn't affect really anybody else.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
Did you all hear my last comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So do you need a motion, Kim?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution 25-2020 to amend the City of Onalaska.
No, that's the wrong
Oh, I'm
one.
sorry.
This
I'm
is
sorry.
emergency order number 4.
I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve the Mayor Proclamation Emergency Order number 4.
Diane seconds.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Tom Smith, seconded by Alder Diane Wolf, to approve emergency order number 4. Is there any other discussion?
Is it possible, or should we consider just saying that this was specific to door-to-door sales? I just don't want to leave somebody out who could be making, a living without going door to door with people who might not want them there based on the coronavirus issue. But where actual customers would be coming to them, if that makes sense.
Okay, I think that I can go back to either Eric or Carrie, but this is, I'm just suspended until further notice. So I think that if someone did have a specific need, this isn't precluding the opportunity for them to bring that specific situation forward, but I'll defer to Eric. Maybe he has more information.
Right. I guess just to read what Carrie said, is not by definition any direct seller that the order covers. It's anybody that needs to qualify for a direct seller's permits under the City of Onalaska ordinances, and that is only the door-to-door people. So someone could be considered something that's they can call themselves a direct seller, but that's not pertaining. It's only those that are subject to the ordinance, which requires direct sellers permits, which is the door-to-door and the fireworks.
Hey, Steve, are you okay now, or well, let's go to our city attorney, Amanda Jackson.
I just wanted to add a procedural clarification. And so if the council doesn't ratify mayoral order number 4, it still stands. From our ordinance standpoint, the only way to overturn a mayoral order under our emergency management ordinance would be to pass a resolution in contrary to it. But just procedurally, I think it's good if we have consensus. And so we've been ratifying these as a way to show consensus.
Thank you. Stephen, are you good? Or you have more questions?
I guess I'm good until July. I don't want to
Right.
affect the fireworks sales if that is something that would be normally permitted. Yeah, I just don't want this to be arbitrary because we already have a lawsuit against the state for, well, multiple reasons, but that's one of them that they're arguing, and I don't want us to be in that situation.
Okay. Well, and thank you. I mean, that's why we have a council, so that we can all weigh in our different viewpoints. And certainly this is something that we can lift also, and hopefully we'll be able to very soon.
Okay.
All right, the motion on
You
the
know what,
floor.
I'm gonna just, maybe if it makes Steve feel
Alder
better, if
Stevens?
there comes a point where, can you explain the process and how like, how would this revert back to normal?
Okay,
Like,
well,
how does this cycle back? Do we have to do another resolution to?
let's
undo
go to
the
our city
resolution?
attorney, Amanda Jackson, for that response.
I think at some point we'll probably decide to either revert back via mayoral order, or we'll do one encapsulating order that, or resolution where we declare that there's no longer a health emergency and that we essentially are undoing these orders, essentially.
All right, so by enacting this emergency order, we can always undo it at a later date when it becomes relevant. That's, okay.
Yes, and I think I can just do that. I don't think we have to have a meeting or anything. I mean, right, Amanda?
Correct. So you could undo it in a future order, or a lot of it just depends on timing, or, you know, I think it's more likely that this stuff will get reversed piecemeal, but we also, depending on what happens, could do one encapsulating resolution at a June meeting or a later meeting if we need to.
Okay, I think we've pretty much discussed that one. Okay, so the mayor, the motion on the floor is to approve mayoral proclamation for emergency order number 4. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Item D is Resolution 25-2020 to amend the City of Onalaska fee schedule as it relates to the liquor license fees. This is something that, a resolution that I put together with the help of Amanda and Carrie. It takes the similar resolution that we had last month and kind of addresses a lot of the questions on it that had come up in discussion. And I know it it lacked a lot of discussion because it hadn't went through committee first. So I just really want to say again that the reason I think this is important is because the City of Onalaska is sending a bill to businesses that are currently shut down during this emergency shutdown period because of the COVID virus. And so I think that it isn't as much about the money as about good business and standing together with our small businesses in our community. But if you disagree with me, I understand that. I just really wanted to spend a little bit more time on the resolution, give you the list of businesses that it was really affecting, and hope that you'll reconsider consider this resolution 25-2020. I'll turn it over to you for discussion. There is any.
Yeah, that's Steve Knott. I like this better. I mean, the previous resolution, as we discovered during our discussions, would have benefited folks who are actually selling liquor right now. And this is, I think, specifically targeted to those who are either closed or selling at a significantly reduced level of sales. So I do like this better.
Yeah, Mayor Smith,
Yes, Alder Smith.
I agree with Steve. The only question I have is, does this require us to give any refunds back of anybody who requests them?
Yes, the reason we were trying to bring it forward for discussion the last month is because if we could have made a decision then, we could have cut it off before the bills went out. But as it is now, the bills have already went out, so we would have to follow that up with a refund or a
Okay.
letter saying you don't need to pay.
Okay,
if this
so in
were to
fairness,
pass.
if somebody's already paid it, we would refund them.
Yep, some of them have already paid.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion that we pass resolution number 25-2020 to amend the City of Onalaska fee schedule as it relates to liquor licenses in the Class B liquor and Class B beer as annotated in the resolution.
I second.
Thank you, Stephen. We have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott, seconded by Tom Smith to approve resolution 25-2020. Is there further discussion? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for your email talking further about your reasoning behind this and such. I have talked with staff further about this and the repercussions. I understand the financial impact would be just under $12,000. I also understand that renewals went out in March for this. And per our city clerk, as of, I believe, yesterday, I think she told me that there were maybe 7 out of the 29 that were still expected to come in this week. I believe phone calls have been placed, and she fully expected them to be coming in this week because they go to publication this Friday. And if they aren't paid this week, then I think by this Wednesday, then they wouldn't be able to be published and they would not be able to be issued a license. I am going to I'm going to continue to not support this for a number of reasons. I realize it's only $12,000, but I'm looking at, I understand Council Eric is going to go ahead and have some type of a budget meeting, hopefully late May or sometime in June, depending upon schedules and such. I like to know where we are to get a better handle of where we are at financially. I know we have a wage study coming up. I know once again, $12,000, I'll say time and again, it's not a whole lot of money, but I'm looking at, I feel like the city is bleeding money right now and there's a lot on our plate and I just have difficulty supporting this at this time. I also have trouble supporting and asking taxpayers to subsidize a private golf course. I don't know how I can justify this to the taxpayers. I also have not had anyone reach out to me personally and say, I haven't received a single phone call or an email from any or anyone who lives in the city of Onalaska asking me to support this. This evening I will be voting no. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Alder Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I am, while I do like this resolution better as it amended the Class A licenses, I think I will probably side with Alder Wolf on this, although for probably a different sort of rationale. After the last meeting where this was discussed, I really put a lot of thought, kind of wondering if I did the right thing. And as more information came out, I'm a little bit more resolute in that position. and without trying to get up on the soapbox, I really thought about our role as city council and what our fiduciary responsibilities are to the taxpayers. And I mean, my heart goes out to some of these local mom and pops, and I think that, you know, they would appreciate the symbolic effort, but it's not just mom and pops, it's national chains. There's private golf courses on there that I'm not even sure if they're open to the public. And for us to stand in front of voters and justify why, you know, how much higher should their property tax bill go up to support or to help write off part of a business expense. And I don't think that's the role of government. What our role is when we're being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars is health and public safety and infrastructure. So it's firefighters and policemen and public works and parks. And we absolutely want to promote a healthy business environment. But I think that's having just a fair and level, you know, playing field for businesses to compete in. Alder Knott mentioned before about not wanting to pick winners and losers. I think this kind of builds into that. And you know, at the end of the day, if I have to justify why my neighbor's property tax bill had to go up to fund like a golf course, I honestly would feel like an idiot. I think that it is a more appropriate role that rather than writing off some of their expenses, which I'm sure would create at least something of an onus and accounting for our staff, a better role for us as council and a municipal government would be when things are back to normal, we should find a way to help them fill their coffers. I don't know what that looks like. I mean, if we can get you know, whether it's a city or it's civic organizations has a pub crawl. I don't know, maybe we can get rides on a fire truck. I'd pay money for that to go from bar to bar. But I'm sure the city attorney is probably cringing right now, and there's all sorts of legal and liability reasons why that couldn't happen. But I think that would be a better approach, and that would be us being better stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. If the fees are too high and we have the room to give the money back, we should probably lower the fees on a permanent basis. If the fees are justified and there are expenses that offsets, it's not right that our local taxpayers should have to pay the burden for what was essentially a state mandate. I mean, this is kind of an indirect, unfunded state mandate. And I don't know, I think I've said kind of enough on this, but the more I thought about it, the more firm I am in that this is, there are other ways that we should help, but reducing the permits for a specific industry is not one of them. So I will be voting against this.
Hey, is there any other discussion?
Yeah, that's Steve Knott. So I just want to clarify, my winners and losers was specific to whether or not we were going to allow people to have permits to conduct a business where people come to them freely of their own will to buy a product. And as it turns out, again, that was not a valid concern of mine because it didn't apply to that. This is only to house-to-house solicitors, and pretty much. But in this case, this resolution applies across the board. It's not picking some people with Class B licenses get relief, other people with Class B licenses do not. That's not what we're talking here. This is a sameness across the board with all of them.
And I think I would add to what Alder Knott is saying is these businesses are shut down. So, I mean, at the very least, you would think that they could have the city of Onalaska is sending them a bill that they have to pay, and they're not even in business right now. So, I mean, at the very least, if you wanted fairness, you would be thinking about a prorated fee. But anyways, any other discussion?
Ask for roll call.
Yeah. Carrie, can you do the roll?
Sure. Stephen Knott,
Yes.
Diane Wolf,
No.
Jim Olson,
Yes.
Tom Smith,
Yes.
Dan Stevens.
No.
It passes 3-2.
Thank you. Moving on to the next section, recommendations for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, commissions, or boards. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business. Are there any items the council members would like removed from the consent agenda? Are there any items that the members would like removed from the consent agenda? Okay, moving on. There's not.
Pardon me,
Okay.
Your Honor, don't we need to accept the
Right, accept the
consent
agenda.
Yeah, I'm looking at the agenda. I've got to switch back because I've got the amended agenda. So I'd like to consider a motion to accept the motions, a motion accepting the items from the consent agenda. We will pass all those items in one motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Dan Stevens, seconded by Jim Olson to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. I'm sorry, it just wasn't printed on the agenda in the normal way, and so I got a little messed up. But we'll move on now to the non-consent agenda. Item 7, recap of items pulled from the consent agenda. There were none. So we'll move on to item 8, the Finance Committee. Dan Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under item 8A vouchers, the following is a list of monies expended since the last common council meeting dated April 14th, 2020, and the amount is $2,142,179.35. And I recommend approval of this.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Jim Olson?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Olson to approve the vouchers. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Dan?
Thank you again, Your Honor. Under item 8B, Wisconsin Department of Transportation Bureau of Transportation Safety, BOTS, is offering a 75-25 match relating to speeding and other traffic violations. We recommend approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Olson to approve the 75-25 match grant. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Under item 8C, authorization to replace a door or frame at 1321 Rosewood Trail, not to exceed $4,840. We believe this is an expense the city should pay, so we recommend approval of item 8C.
I'll second that, Tom.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Smith, to replace the door at a cost not to exceed $4,840. Is there discussion? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. For anyone who may be interested, I called the contractor and materials are in the amount of $2,400 and labor is $2,440. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Is there any other discussion? The motion on the floor is to approve the replacement All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimous. Moving on to personnel, Alder Stevens.
Thank you again, Your Honor. Under item 9A, approval of changes to policy 6.08 employee attire. I recommend approval, and I would like to reserve my time if it's seconded.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I will second it. Diane?
Go ahead,
Okay.
Diane.
Motion on the floor by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Wolf. Alder Stevens retains the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would pose for discussion, and then if it would possibly offer an amendment under Part 2 General Guidelines. We had some discussion over what to do with hair color, and really without wanting to make this a big thing, in keeping up with the times, some people might wish to augment or have a what might be deemed as not a natural hair color as like a highlight. And I would recommend that we change unnatural hair color in the sentence, therefore the following is not acceptable. Spandex, bare feet, unnatural hair color, sexually provocative clothing, clothing of any kind promoting illegal or restricted substances, etc. To strike the word unnatural and replace it with disruptive. So somebody could potentially highlight their hair as long as it doesn't cause an issue at the office at City Hall, or make it so Human Resources has to police this. This is kind of minute, but it's, I think in keeping up with the times, we should be, we want to look professional, but we don't want to be overbearing in how city employees are expected to present themselves.
Okay, so is this an amendment or just a discussion?
I would make an amendment if it, I'd really hate to have it die for lack of a second, but what the heck?
I didn't know if I should ask for a second.
That,
Sorry. I'll mute myself next time.
Hey, Dan, how about if I second it for discussion?
all right.
There you go.
Just for your sake, right?
Go
Okay,
big or go home. I'm going to, and I'm not wedded to the word disruptive, but if there's a better phrase, I would consider it. But I'm under item 2 general guidelines. I will make an amendment to strike the word unnatural, but that precedes hair and is after bare feet, and replace it with the word disruptive.
okay. So we have the amendment on the floor. The amendment has been made by Alder Stevens and seconded by Alder Smith. And now it is now open for, the amendment is open for discussion.
Mayor, can I ask
Yes.
Hope what her thoughts are of the word destructive, and or yes, what'd you say? Yeah, destructive. And how she would manage that or feel her comfort with that word?
Sure. Hope, are you on the call?
I am.
There she is.
I think disruptive is, it's fine. I think it's going to be difficult to define, but somebody could have, you know, bright rainbow colored hair and somebody could consider that disruptive, which is a possibility. So alternative wording could be, you know, I don't know if the council wants to limit people's hair color, and that's really a policy decision, not my decision. So I think the thought process has to be, if we'll still treat people the same way regardless of whether their hair color is rainbow colors or bright purple or blonde.
or a brunette or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah, I think maybe we could have Amanda weigh in on that as well, because my question is more like, the word disruptive is subjective, so how can we find a better word or a word that is actually easier for someone to make a call on it? But I'll turn it over to Amanda Jackson.
I think, if the intent is that we don't want to regulate hair color, we simply remove unnatural hair from the policy, or natural hair color. I think it gets really hard and really subjective to determine what's disruptive. It could be very personal. Rainbow hair color could be, disruptive to Eric, but not disruptive to me. And I could find neon pink hair disruptive. And it gets, I think it just opens up this can of worms as to what an individual interprets. And it just, uniformity in how we administer the policy, I think would be difficult across departments. And so if it's the will of the council that we don't have a problem, times have changed, we don't mind a purple streak in someone's hair, then I think we just simply remove unnatural hair color from the policy.
Yeah.
Okay, Alder Smith.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was thinking too, but I wanted to second it for the discussion, because disruptive to me would be very hard to interpret. Everybody will have a different perspective. So I know we have to vote on this first, but I really like the idea of just taking hair color out and use the judgment of our staff when something seems to be out of place. But anyhow, I think that's what I would say.
Okay, back to Alder Stevens.
Thank you. Yeah, my goal is not to create extra work for anybody. We want and expect employees to come to work in a professional public setting and be able to interact with the public normally. It could be weird if you got pulled over and the police officer had, half bright pink and half bright blue hair. I don't know that it would actually preclude him or her from doing their job, but it's. I would support removing that if that seemed better. If Hope thought that was more appropriate.
And I do think that the police actually have their own definitions, don't they, Hope? I think they have a separate professionalism appearance policy.
they do. I don't know if they specifically have one on hair color, but yes.
So Mary, do we vote on this first, or do we, can we make it?
We will, but let's see what Alder Wolf would like to say first.
If both Alderperson Stevens and Smith are willing to remove their motion in second, I would make another amendment.
Okay, is that the case?
I would definitely remove my second.
Okay, so that amendment has been removed from the floor.
I would like to make a motion to remove the wording unnatural hair color from the number 2 general guidelines paragraph under the employee attire.
Okay, thank you, Alder Wolf. Is there a second?
I will second that, Tom.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Diane Wolf, seconded by Tom Smith. It's an amendment to remove the general guideline of unnatural hair color from the policy. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll be voting on the amendment now. So all those in favor of the amendment to remove unnatural hair coloring, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, the amendment has passed unanimously. Now we're going back to the original motion, which was approving the changes to policy 6.08 employee attire. Is there further discussion on that motion? Not hearing any. So then all those in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 10, the Judiciary Committee.
So item 10A is the ordinance 1669-2020 to amend Title I of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to general provisions for the use and Code of Ordinances, and I'm recommending approval on this item.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve ordinance 1669-2020, which is amending Title 1. Is there any discussion on that? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. I talked with Amanda Jackson earlier today. Council did not receive a redlined version of this until late this afternoon. And I asked her if she was fine with this, and she said she was. I would ask that we refer this to the June meeting.
Okay. And I think that's a good idea. Diane, we have the motion on the floor, so I'm not sure how to proceed.
I can amend my order that, can I amend it myself and just say that I will amend that we consider this for approval next month, or no? Or do we just vote it down and then just have a different amendment?
Let's go to, I don't know if we should go, let's go to Eric, and then Amanda.
The motion to refer will supersede the previous motions on the floor.
Okay, very good.
All right, I'll make a motion that we refer this to next month's meeting.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith, right? To
Right.
refer this motion due to the timeliness of the information. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, this item is referred. And thank you, Diane, for doing that. I felt the same way myself.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
It just was kind of late coming, and I was like, well, I don't know. So this
Well,
is-
and the way after I talked with Amanda, both Amanda and Eric today, we typically would have gotten a red line version at A&J, but we didn't have A&J meeting. So it was just
Right.
an oversight because we typically get a clean copy at council. So, and I understand we will be having an A&J meeting in June, whether it's remote or not. So we'll pick it up then. So thank you.
right. Yes, difficult times here.
Yep.
Okay, that's it for judiciary. We're moving on to the administrative.
Okay, number 11, Administrative Committee, approval of the operator licenses as listed in the report dated May 7th, 2020. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve the operators licenses as listed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 12 is the Board of Public Works. Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 12A, Resolution 24-2020, resolution for authorizing participation in the Wisconsin Water and Wastewater Agency Response Network, WI-WARN. It was the recommendation of Board of Public Works to approve Resolution 24-2020. And that is a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Diane. Is there a second? Oh, who was,
I'll second.
was that Alder Knott?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Knott to approve Resolution 24-2020. Is there discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Item 12B, review and consideration of bids received for 2020 City Hall roof replacement project. I understand that there was a bid opening this morning. I'll turn this over to Jared, if Jared's on, or Kevin.
Kevin Schubert is attendance. Jared, I believe, has an excused attendance tonight. The City of Onalaska did open bids in the City Hall parking lot this morning for the 2020 City Hall roof replacement project. We did receive 4 bids on the project. The low bidder was from Lediger Roofing for amount of $248,197.00.
And if I may ask, it was $300,000 was budgeted for the capital improvements for 2020. Is that correct, Kevin?
Correct, Diane. $300 was budgeted under item number 54 in the 2020 capital improvements project. So this bid does fall within the budgeted amount in the capital improvements project.
Thank you. Well, I will make a motion to award the bid to Ledigar Roofing for the 2020 City Hall roof replacement project in the amount of $248,197 per the bid opening that Kevin Schubert sent us via email this afternoon.
Thank you, Diane. Is there a second?
Yes, there is. Second.
Is that Jim Olson?
Yes.
Yes.
Believe so, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Ann, seconded by Jim, to approve, award the bid for the 2020 City Hall roof replacement to Lediger Roofing for $248,197. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 13, Park, Rec, and Library Board. Other not?
So this is basically an update based on a meeting last night. The aquatics was the biggest concern and the longest debate and discussion, I guess, amongst the members. We have a tough decision that we're going to have to make, and the board is meeting to decide what they wanted to recommend. And what they've ended up recommending is that we wait one more week with a recommendation, because we don't know what's going to come out of the Supreme Court decision is the bottom line, and we're expecting that any time now. The discussion was basically, do we have to close, or do we have to come before the Common Council and request an additional significant sum of money, basically about $100,000, in order to run the pool? Now, it's my perception, based on the discussion, that we understand that that would be unreasonable to come forward to ask for, but I guess the model that the Parks and Rec folks used to determine what the losses would be were based upon the current restrictions that we would be under the current state guidance. Reference how many people could allow in the pool, how often they'd have to clean everything they touch, things of that nature that would make it to the point where we'd be losing that much additional money above and beyond what the budget already was calling for. The concern is, based upon a pending Supreme Court decision, those planning criteria may significantly change. They also may not. We just don't know. So the Parks and Rec Board was recommending that we wait and see what comes out of that. They're going to be meeting again next Monday, and we'll probably have another recommendation. Is there any discussion on the aquatics? And Dan, I believe he said he would be online. I can't see that since I'm on phone. I could not get in on video. But if you have additional detail, if he's on, he could probably provide it.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the council? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did listen in on the Parks meeting last night. I did hear Dan Wick's input along with the board's input. As of last night, it was Dan Wick's stance. It was his recommendation to close the pool. There was a 2-5 vote last night. The motion failed to close the pool for 2020. The way I see it, that Dan is required to operate under the approved budget. Quite honestly, I don't know what is going to be gained by another week. I appreciate that Dan has reached out to the board and the council for making these decisions. As someone who appreciates and respects boards, committees, and commissions' input, I appreciate that he has reached out for all of our opinions. I am going to make a motion that I move that the council take no action to amend the budget for 2020 for the aquatic center.
I can second that motion. I don't think that'll impact what the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Board was. They just wanted more information on what the criteria would be that would be under. I don't think anyone on the park and board, I mean, I can't speak for them, but it was my perception that nobody on that park and rec board was looking to come to the common council and ask for significant additional funds. We just thought it was premature to make the decision to close it. So I'll certainly second that motion, Diane.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf to take no action on the aquatic center at this time. Is there, seconded by Stephen Knott, is there any other discussion?
I think her motion was that we spend no additional funds.
Her
that
motion
what-
was no action. Diane, please
Is-
clarify.
Yeah, I move that the council take no action to amend the budget for 2020, meaning that there will be no additional funding for 2020
Right.
Aquatic Center.
Yeah, I guess we're saying the same thing but differently. Got it.
Right, and we may have different intent behind, I feel. As someone who listened to the meeting last night, the entire meeting, I think we're all disappointed with the point that we're at, and I think we're all in agreement that, we'd all like to open up the pool and move forward. My number one concern is the protection of our staff. And when I appreciate Dan Wick putting forth it was like an 8-page, I have so many pieces of paper, 8-page handout of what is going to be required for the CDC guidelines. I think that's going to be a very tall order. I know there's some conflicting information whether or not we're going to have to operate at a CDC level or at the county level, regardless of if the state order is lifted or not by the Supreme Court. I think we have a lot of work in front of us, and my number one concern is staff and the administration of what we may have ahead of us. So, but my motion is that council take no action to amend the budget for 2020, meaning that they will have to operate within the current budget. Once again, I'm going back to my original statement early on in tonight's council that I feel like the city is bleeding money, and we don't have, I as someone who doesn't have a problem operating a pool at a deficit, I think it's our contribution to the community, and taxpayers want a community pool, but I don't think we can throw more good money after bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Is there further discussion? Any other alders? Alder Stevens?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what we're doing. So in the event that no additional monies are allotted to the aquatic center at this point, the way that I'm reading some of the materials presented, the challenges coming from higher levels of government would suggest that, for example, swimming lessons, we have to limit how many people could be in the pool, which will limit revenue that would come. So we would be operating at an elevated loss. Secondarily, there's like situational things that we would have to monitor. So like if you have a swimming lesson, your parent would have to be in there at the same time, and people have to be so far apart. And it almost seems like if that's the case, I'm not sure how practical it would be to have the pool be open. So if by not increasing money buys us time to potentially either, if nothing changes, we can just close the pool down because it's not practical, it's not feasible, it's not economical. Or if the rulings come down the other way and everybody can just jump in the pool at the same time, then maybe we can operate and provide the city service as was originally intended. So is this, if Mr. Wick is available, I would love it if he could, like, am I understanding this correctly? Is there, we're not really making a decision right now if we're going to open or close the pool, but we are just retaining that option until a later point as more information becomes relevant.
Dan Wick, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. And Dan, yeah, I mean, I think with the motion that was made, it gives the direction to the staff to try to develop a budget that can work. You know, unfortunately, late in the afternoon today, we heard some more differing opinions on how the aquatics are going to be operated. We've had very good conversation with our local health department. They've given us direction. There was a call today with some members of our Wisconsin Park and Rec Association that another department of the state of Wisconsin has given different direction on who's going to administer how pools can open. We have put together budget documents based on the Safer at Home, based on the recommendations from our local health department and the call that we had with them. If these things are changed and they move to the CDC guidelines, we will have to reevaluate that, and that gives us the goal for the next park board meeting that we can reevaluate these and get some answers prior to that time.
So if we vote to approve this, this means that if we want to open the pool later, we can. But if it becomes, if it behooves us to close the pool, then we can, right?
That is correct. We would use the guidelines, and next Monday night at the park board meeting, we could have forecasted budget information together based on the information that we have at that time, and we would be able to make that decision at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Well, basically, my understanding is of this is if we pass this motion, it directs that the Parks and Rec would have to, if they're going to open the pool, they could only do so if their business model showed that they would be able to operate within the existing previously approved budget. Which under the current guidelines, there's no way they could, but the question is, what are those guidelines going to be after the Wisconsin State Supreme Court comes out with their ruling?
Yes, I think that sums it up, Alder Knott. Any questions, or Danwick, did you want to add any other comments?
Nope, I have nothing else.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, so the motion on the floor was made by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Knott, to take no action to amend the budget regarding the aquatics for 2020. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Back to you, Alder Knott, for the next item.
Recreation, that was far less discussion intensive. Basically, the Parks and Rec had determined that they can probably delay the start of some of these recreation, especially with the adult recreation. The adult teams, like the softball teams, what have you, I guess, have expressed a desire that they would still like to have their season, even if it is delayed. The real challenges are with the youth programs. Again, based upon the current existing guidelines, it would be very difficult for them to be able to have sports events or sport. It's really the practices is the biggest concern. Is how does the coach with a bunch of kids stay within the existing guidelines? So at this point, they're talking about delaying or canceling some of these events. And again, Dan can probably provide more detail if he would like.
Danwick, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen hit the nail on the head here. You know, again, we are currently staying up to date. Staff is currently monitoring all situations. We are putting plans in place. Our hope is to come to the next park board meeting on Monday night with some little bit more details as we're working through it. Staff has been working close with the Cooley Region Sports League, which all of our youth baseball and softball teams play through. And, they just are coming out with different guidelines, and staff are participating on Thursday with a local discussion with a lot of the local departments and trying to figure out different options we have going forward. But as Stephen said, very similar to the aquatics, things are changing every day, and we get different guidelines and different things coming out. So we're just trying to stay up to speed as much as we can so we can develop a policy statement for us to move forward.
Yeah, I'm not so sure this requires any kind of a motion. It's more information because
That is
we're not asking, they're not asking for any additional funds at this time in order to function. They're just kind of trying to figure out, how or how much they can operate. Is that correct, Dan?
That is correct. We're looking more of an update there, and we may have more actionable items at our next park board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do the other counselors have any questions or comments? Thank you for that report. Appreciate that. I don't see anybody raising their hand, so I'll continue on then to item 14, closed session. To consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph E of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Specifically, the IAFF, International Association of Firefighters, Local 127, the OPPA, Onalaska Professional Police Association, Memorandum of Understanding Recruits, and the discussion and negotiation regarding the proposed sanitary sewer agreement with the City of La Crosse. And under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. IAFF, International Association of Firefighters, Local 127, prohibited practice complaint, specifically our part-time EMTs. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, Common Council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue on with the printed agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move that we go into closed session.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Smith to go into closed session. The voting is by roll call. Carrie, are you still on?
I am.
Can you do the roll for us?
Sure. Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Aye.
Thank you. We are in closed session and the time is 8:10 p.m. Let us know when our line is secure.
I will be back in 1 minute.